Welcome to Soccer We Like It, the channel for football and global fans around the world. We are covering the Copa America 2024 that been. It's now getting to the final stages where the groups are beginning to be faded out, and it's the first two who qualify to the next round. Joining me is the expert in Copa America football, the singing director of Colorado and Houston Red Army, Mr. Louis. Come on, how are you, brother?
So good, man. Great to see you.
Right, we have a lot to quick go through, so we're just going to dive right into it.
Let's do it.
Um, the last time we chatted, Panama was playing USA, and USA, you know, you said it wasn't a great match, but it looked ferocious. It looked like two teams were going out, just like it was like a slugfest. But eventually, with 10 men, Panama got the job done, got the 3 points, and kept it moving. What was your take quickly?
Yeah, no, overall, as far as the football side went, it was atrocious. It was wild. It was the formations were gone, the tactics were gone, and it was a slugfest. Literally because Timmy Weah got a red card for punching a Panamanian in the
What,
side
what
of the.
what did the guy say to him? What triggered that? Do
I
we
have
know?
no idea. I've been trying to figure that out. Uh, they get tangled up, something is said, and then fists are flying. Um,
Is he on a just is he what the US Federation said? I mean, the backlash was quite a lot. I got a lot of hate towards him, like he
uh,
needs to grow
I
up and all
think
that.
I think initially there was a lot of hate. I think it cooled down pretty quickly. FIFA came down with, I believe, a two-match ban and a $3,000 fine. So honestly, kind of a slap on the wrist.
I've seen huge bigger fees than that.
But yeah, I mean the
But that's
backlash
violent
obviously.
conduct. Should have got at least 5 match.
What was that?
You should have got at least 5 match. I've seen people
Uh,
do less for
it,
less for more.
yeah, it seemed like he got away with it a bit, didn't
Yeah,
it?
I think so.
It was just it was incredibly reckless. It was I mean, obviously heat of the moment and emotions are running high, and it's a big game for both teams because ultimately it definitely meant the next round, honestly, because obviously tonight Panama played Bolivia and the US played Uruguay, and they knew, who were the favorite for those matches. So uh and of course, we talked previously about the bad blood between Panama and Mexico, and just the rivalry there, and it really showed. From a neutral perspective, I mean, I bet the game was incredibly entertaining. There were red cards, there were fouls, there were goals. Yeah, it was an insane matchup between the U.S. and Panama. But ultimately, I think what the U.S. showed is they're not prepared. They're not prepared for the next level. I think Greg Berhalter had a lot to answer for in that game, uh, and and Panama got the better of them. They went down to 10 men, so it was 10-on-10 for like the last 5 minutes of the game, but just wasn't enough for the U.S. to come back from the 2-1 down. And credit to mis canaleros, as we say, the Canal men. They pulled it off in great fashion.
Hmm. Right. Then after that, we had the Brazil 4, Paraguay 1. Brazil's first score, I mean, the first victory in the tournament. Was that
Yeah,
expected?
expected definitely, but also by far the best game that Brazil have played. I said this about we talked about Vinicius Jr. in the Champions League final, where I
Yes.
said he was playing like he was a kid at the park. He was having fun, flicks, tricks, smiles, shots, passes. He was having a great time. The difference was this time that the whole team was playing that way. Brazil were playing like they were back in the favela, Sunday afternoon pickup game. They were enjoying themselves. And Paraguay, obviously they were the underdogs to their credit. I think they held on for a little while. It was 1-1, I think, there for a moment.
Mhm.
But ultimately Brazil were just too strong, and they showed it. definitely the best game that they've had. On the other side of that, I know you're about to bring it up.
Colombia and Costa
Colombia.
Rica.
Yes, and Colombia continued to prove that why I believe that they're the favorite to win this whole tournament.
That'd be great.
Um, Costa Rica and Brazil ended in a 1-1 draw, I believe. And of course, Colombia put them in their place 3-0. And
Yes.
man, were they playing Latin football. The beautiful game that Brazil is so famous
Mm.
for trademarking. I think Colombia showed true quality against Costa Rica. What a phenomenal performance from them. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe James Rodriguez had 2 assists in that game.
Yes, he did.
The bounce back for James has been incredible over this group stage, and I cannot wait until tomorrow's matchup, Brazil Colombia. It's gonna be
That is
fireworks.
going to be a big game. Now, let's go to the group whereby Jamaica lost the final game 3-0. I
Yes.
mean, to Venezuela. I
Mhm.
mean, nah, Jamaica just got beaten 3 games. They lost all
Yeah,
games.
I think number one, I did not predict 3-0 before that game.
Mm,
I Venezuela, even though they're the top of the group, I thought this was the group where it was really nothing special overall.
mm.
I thought this was kind of the group a lot of people weren't really paying attention to. Um, Jamaica's gotta find the technical aspect. They have the physical superiority, height, pace. Overall, no one can match. In the whole tournament, I think no one
But
can
they
match.
need the skills to go with it.
I think at the end of the first half, if I remember correctly, I think they had 8 or 9 shots, 0 on target.
Yeah.
Jamaica. It was, oh man, just not a good game. And I think the first half even ended 0-0,
Hmm.
which, goes to show that Venezuela are not quality overall. Um, they struggle a lot, and they'll struggle very much in the next round as well. But good on them. They put 3 away in the second half, punched their ticket through in the first place position. Obviously the conversation has been on the other side of that group, where it was Mexico
Let's go
and
Ecuador.
Ecuador.
That's horrible.
Me, in this one, kind of shocking because I really expected Ecuador to put Mexico away, no problem. Mexico, this has been some of and again, everybody knows I'm biased because they're such a big rival. But this has been some of the poorest football I've ever seen Mexico play, ever,
No, they've been
ever.
disappointing.
It's been
Highly
it's been
disappointing.
abysmal. It's been so bad. And Ecuador, I mean, you have Moises Caicedo there in the middle, just dictating, just doing his thing. I expected a little bit more from him, but I think they're already clenched. I don't think that they saw Mexico as a threat, so they kind of go out there, they play their game. It ends in a 0-0 draw, boring. I think from the neutral perspective overall. Um, so the group ends not exactly as I expected. I expected Ecuador to take the top. Venezuela takes the top, but I expected Jamaica and Mexico to be the ones that bowed out early, and that's what happened.
But uh, I mean, Mexico, they didn't do themselves any justice at all. They beat Jamaica and they just forgot to play everyone else.
Pretty much, yeah. Overall, and we talked about it previously. I think Mexico and the US have kind of a similar problem where the financial goals have been put ahead of the football
The
goals.
football. Mm,
And ultimately, if you want to have success, which equals dollars down the
mm.
road, you have to focus on the football. And I think Mexico, I think there's so much money in Mexican football, both at the club level and at the national level. And as long as that's the focus, they will continue to struggle on the world stage. And now they're even struggling at the CONCACAF stage. They're no longer the kings of CONCACAF. Uh,
Yeah, they used to be.
yeah, that might be very soon that might be my boys in red. We'll see what happens.
Right, right. So we saw Uruguay annihilate Bolivia 5-0.
Yeah.
I mean, that was harsh.
This goes back again to what I was saying the last time we spoke, where Panama were rated the worst team in the tournament, and I took it as so much disrespect because I said Bolivia is there.
You said you did
Bolivia
mention
is
it.
by far the worst team in this tournament, and they proved it tonight. We'll get into that, I'm sure.
There was
But
the Jamaica.
worse, worse. Jamaica would beat a Bolivian side just on pace.
Really? Wow.
This is a team who at home they do well because they have the altitude is their secret weapon. Playing in the mountains. And on the road, we've seen it time and time again in Conmebol, and we saw it in this tournament. Uruguay played through them like they weren't even there.
Yeah, I saw the goals. It was so bad. It was
Yeah,
like
no,
knife
it
through,
was.
it was like a
Yeah, there's nothing.
chainsaw on a Snickers bar. It was
Yeah,
horrible.
there's nothing to be said other than the fact that that's exactly what is expected. If if
Peru,
if Uruguay
Bolivia.
scored less than 3 goals in that game, I would be shocked.
Wow. Huh? We saw Argentina beat they beat when they beat Peru as
Peru,
expected.
yes.
Peru
Um,
being horrible. Peru, so did Peru lose all games or they drew one? Or
yeah,
they
I think this is where I think this game you truly saw the Argentinian dominance. It only ends 2-0. Um, but Argentina, the way they move the ball, this is World Cup Argentina. And this is an Argentina without Messi. He picked up, I believe it was a quad strain. Um,
against
nothing
Chile.
serious, nothing serious. He'll play in the knockouts stage. But they had already clenched 6 points. Not a very not a crucial game for them, so it makes sense for him to sit. I thought Martinez did well, scored both the goals. Otamendi played well. I'm cheating here. I'm looking at the Garnacho for the United boy. Played well. Nothing
Hmm.
spectacular. So there was some criticism about him playing backwards a lot, but I believe that was tactical. I believe that was probably instruction. It was like, take care of the ball,
Yeah.
value possession. Let's get our goals. Let's make sure that they don't score goals. Leave with the clean sheet, and we'll be fine. And I thought he played his role. I believe he played about 70 minutes, maybe a little less. But yeah, he did his job. Di Maria as well. Nothing crazy, nothing special. But functional overall. Very, 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 very mature game from them. You can tell why they're kind of the favorites from a lot of people. I still think that if they match up with Colombia later on in the tournament, they're going to have some problems.
Canada nil, Chile nil. Chile have been quite disappointing in this tournament, to
A
say the
bit,
least.
a bit disappointing.
I mean, I
Here
saw the best game against Argentina. That whole game was a firecracker.
that was a firecracker, and that's because of the rivalry. Chile and Argentina, man, there's blood, there's bad blood there.
They
Goes,
beat
goes.
Argentina in one Copa final penalties, if I remember clearly.
Yes, yes, I think you're right.
And Messi retired, allegedly retired,
Allegedly, yeah,
and
right,
came back. That guy's
right,
confused.
right, right. I don't think anybody took that seriously. He was, still pretty young at the time, and there was nobody to match him. So I think we knew that he was coming back. Um, Huge result for Jesse Marsh in the Canada side. And again, we're probably gonna get into that a little bit deeper when we talk about tonight's matchup. But getting through to the knockouts for him, draw against Chile, very, very good overall for that side. It's a side that struggled traditionally. Obviously, the Canadians have a few players now in Europe. and those players are starting to show through, but it's not the majority of the squad. So from a footballing perspective, very mature, very organized. Um, played a decent game, had a few good chances, didn't put them away. Um, but no, very, very, very fun to watch overall, for Canada, and we'll see how far they go. I think their first knockout game, if I'm not mistaken, will be difficult. I think they have. I'm looking it up right now.
At least they
They have
could say,
Venezuela.
they
They have
said,
Venezuela on Friday.
do you think
Um,
they could get past Venezuela?
they could, honestly. Venezuela, like I said earlier, I don't rate them in CONMEBOL. They're one of the lower teams in South America. I think they get through because their group overall is weaker. And don't get me wrong, they scored their goals. They did what they came in, they did the job. All credit to them. But that game, Canada, Venezuela, 50-50 for me. I think it could go either way. I think Jesse Marsh is a brilliant coach. I think that he's had his criticisms, rightfully so, but he's also had his success, and yeah, could definitely see something there. It'll be a good game. It'll be a good game to watch.
So that brings us up to date till today. Today was do or die for USA. A lot of USA fans were expecting and hoping and believing and praying, fasting, burning incense and lighting candles and praying to the Holy Mary that this might be a miracle, even though they knew Uruguay are guns blazing at this moment. But
Yeah,
in football, you just never know. So
in
they went out there knowing a victory and a Panama loss, but no, they kind of felt, could Bolivia shock Panama? Can USA shock Uruguay? It wasn't going to be. So Uruguay, as usual, did what they needed to do. They had already qualified. So a lot of Americans thought they would rest some players, probably play a weakened team, but they didn't really do that. So talk us about USA nil, Uruguay won. USA is out of Copa America. Are you disappointed? Would this lose a lot of um, would this lose a lot of fans going to the games now because America's no more there?
Man, let me where to start. Oh my gosh. Going into the game, I noticed that from a media standpoint, Fox Soccer, online, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you were, there was a lot of media that held the United States as the favorite. That
Against
spoke,
Uruguay.
yeah, that spoke about the US like expecting to win this game. And I was, what soccer are you guys watching?
Yeah,
What are you guys, where are you getting this information?
right.
Um, and I was in the pub, British Bulldog here in Denver. Shout out to those guys because they're amazing. Um, it was packed USA fans. I was the only Panama fan in there. There was like two or three. There was like two to three Uruguayans in there, no Bolivians. Um,
Where were the Uruguayans? Were they wearing the Uruguayan shirts?
but yeah, exactly. Wearing some classic Uruguayan jerseys. It was very nice to see. But the conversations I was hearing from people were they were expecting the US to win. And I wasn't trying to be negative, but I was definitely trying to lower expectations. I was like, guys, this will be tough. This will be tough. And what I was not expecting is what happened. That game got completely out of hand from a refereeing standpoint, from an officiating standpoint. The ref was out of his element. Terrible calls, um, uh, escalation between players, a lot of pushing, a lot of shoving, a lot of words being thrown around. some absolute abysmal calls. There's an offside call against the U.S. Where Joe Scally was onsides clearly. There was the Uruguay goal. As a as someone who really wanted to see Panama go through, I wanted to see Panama and the U.S. go through. But the goal I felt was offsides. His knee is clearly in an offsides position, and it's fine margins, of course. But what have we seen in the Euros? What have we seen in Copa America this tournament? Is guys getting called offsides for their arm being over the line, for their foot being over the line, marginal calls,
Yes.
and the U.S. don't get those calls. Now, that being said, no excuses. If you want to be considered a contender on the world stage, if you want to be considered a contender for the Copa America, no excuses. You cannot blame the ref. You cannot blame marginal calls. Did you put the ball in the back of the net? And the answer
No.
is you did not. You did not. Pulisic, I thought overall played well. Balogun went off at the end of the first half, and I was devastated for him. It was an injury. Went off early, but and Tim Ream, I thought, did very well. Robinson, okay, first half, terrible second half. McKinney, poor over the entire 90 minutes. Adams, good first half, kind of non-existent. Ricardo Pepi comes on for Balogun. I forgot he was on the field. Somebody asked me about him at the end of the game, and I went, "Oh my gosh, he was playing, wasn't he?" Scooby Doo, Scott McTominay. I thought he was gone. And then of course the question becomes Greg Berhalter. Does he
People
keep
are
his
saying,
job?
I saw the player sacked in the morning, but I
Sacked in the
don't think
morning. I hope he gets sacked in the next 30 minutes over here. He doesn't deserve to make it till the morning, if you ask me.
so.
Um,
So
abysmal.
you think America, USA should sack him, get another coach, and start all over again for 2026 World Cup?
Yep.
Is there
Yep.
enough time?
The result of a new coach between now and 2026 is going to be miles better than if you keep him.
Wow, that's deep. That's deep. Okay, we will keep that space and we'll watch that space.
Gotta go. He's gotta go.
Panama 3, Bolivia 1. Panama qualified from the group with Uruguay. Uruguay 9 points, Panama 6 points, USA goodbye and good night. Bolivia 0 points.
I will say Panama kept my heart racing for the majority of that. You can again I all credit to Thomas Christensen, the manager, has revolutionized Panamanian football. However, what we saw tonight was clearly our depth is a huge struggle for us. Coco Carrasquillas, our captain, our midfield magnifico, best player Panama has had ever, in my opinion. Picks up the red card against the U.S. He doesn't play tonight, and it shows. It shows. I think we had the majority of the possession in the second half, but not the first half. It became very kickball. It became very direct. Couldn't keep possession for very long periods of time. We skipped the midfield. Usually it was our left back, Davies, passing straight into the left winger, skipping the midfield, which ultimately worked out. First goal and second, well, I'd say all three goals for us were masterclass. First goal, touch, half volley. Second goal, header, beautiful, well done.
Right.
And then the third goal, Giannis comes on and scores with it with under 60 seconds of being on the field.
Yes.
Fantastic. Absolute fantastic. The goal that we do give up, back line completely disorganized. horrible goal to concede. And when they concede that goal, it goes 1-1. So USA are actually through at that point because it was 0-0 in that game until
Yes.
Uruguay scores. Once Uruguay scores, Panama are through. Um, so yeah.
So hold on, because but you had to. Oh yeah, you needed 6 points. So at that point, you already.
So yeah, going into before the games kick off, Panama and the U.S. both have 3 points. Panama is -1 goal differential, and U.S. is +1 goal differential. So a tie in both games would have saw the U.S. go through, and Panama score, which puts them in second place. Um, but before Uruguay scores, Bolivia scores, and that puts them back at -1. And then the US were in second place until Uruguay scored. And Uruguay scored pretty quickly after that. Um, but yeah, from a Panamanian American standpoint, I thought they were gonna have to call the doctor. I thought I was gonna hit the floor. Uh, it was a crazy game. And then finally, when we score the second one, obviously, like I feel a lot better. But then finally, when the third goal comes, like it's done, it's dusted. The pub is pretty much silent overall. A lot of disappointed faces. A lot of people talking about Berhalter. A lot of people want to see Berhalter go. Um, it's
So
just
would now that America's out, would that drop? Would that be a big drop in revenue in terms of attendances? Because normally most tournaments, when the host is out, the locals like can't be bothered.
No, because if you've seen the games so far, they're packed and they're not packed with Americans. They are and they aren't.
Right.
You look at the Colombia games, is probably the best example. Absolutely packed with Colombians,
Yes.
Colombian immigrants and Colombian Americans. Look, the population is so incredibly diverse. This is why they chose to have the tournament here. Argentina game, obviously, it's going to be packed with Messi fans, but it's packed with Argentinians. It is packed with people with Argentinian blood, either through their parents who immigrated here or they immigrated here themselves. And you see this through all the games tonight in Orlando. Not a sellout, obviously, but by far the most traveling Panamanian fans we've ever had in any tournament
That
ever.
event was in Orlando, right?
That was in Orlando, and it's
Wow.
the first time. It's the first time Panama's ever won in Orlando. They always lose
Wow.
in Orlando.
Wow.
But a lot of Bolivians, a lot of Panamanians, and then of course some neutral fans as well. No, I don't think that this is necessarily going to be a revenue killer. But it could be a football killer. Um,
How do you
you
mean a football killer?
what this campaign has been for U.S. soccer, for the U.S. Soccer Federation. Basically, there's like a 6 year, well, really more than that, because you go all the way back to the last World Cup. There's this campaign of, we're selected to host the World Cup. Then we're selected to host Copa America. How can we get football into every living room? How can we get every kid excited about football? How can
Right.
we how can we grow the sport? How can we grow the fan base? A few years ago, US soccer, this was more like in the coach education and from like a staffing standpoint, but they basically created a goal that said we will, no ifs, ands, or buts, make soccer the #1 sport in this country.
Ain't happening.
That's what they said.
So they think it will overtake NFL and basketball and baseball.
Yeah, because it's already happened. Kind of. Baseball was America's pastime. It was the #1 sport in this country for decades. Obviously, the NFL took that over. NFL is now the most viewed. It's not the most grossing sport, I think, as far as revenue go. The MLB is still top because there's like 160,000 baseball games a season. It's insane. But as far as
Then you have basketball.
but you do still have basketball. And in basketball, where football kind of, or where soccer kind of takes a hit, is that the NBA itself is growing more internationally. Um, but the viewership of soccer has skyrocketed above any growth any sport is seen, like from the numbers within a short period of time.
Right.
Obviously,
Yeah,
they have
with watching the Premier League more frequently shown by NBC and all that stuff, and with the
yeah.
World Cup coming out. But I still believe for soccer to be number one in America, it's not going to be. It's going to take more than just hosting a World Cup.
It's not going to happen anytime soon. And
No.
the reason because of that though is on the US Federation. It's their fault. Um the controversy behind Berhalter was massive. The controversy behind Gio Reyna and his father, it made them look silly. Obviously, not performing well on the world stage is a killer.
And the Women's World Cup.
Women's World Cup, we obviously they're successful most of the time overall, but even the women's team has stumbled in both the World Cup and in the Olympics. That being said, we're still producing some of the best female players on the face of the earth by far. Um, and the game is growing. The MLS revenue is the highest it's ever been. Um, you know, the
But
revenue,
but
the rights of
owners are not going to agree to relegation.
no, the owners, and again, that's another thing that takes away from the game is the financial aspect. When as long as they keep putting money above the football, then they won't reach that goal of becoming the number one sport. And it's terrible because there are some phenomenal. I mean, obviously, UK fans may not know there is some phenomenal football being played in the USL, in the Division Two.
Hmm.
Those
I wouldn't
those
know.
those teams have massive fan bases. Obviously, the stadium capacity is smaller for those teams, so the revenue is not necessarily there. But they have in their communities huge followings, huge fan bases, and
Hmm.
they deserve a chance to compete at the highest levels. But again, the finances are they drive the boat, you know.
Right.
So the US soccer has a huge decision to make in the next 8 hours, 9 hours that will determine the future of soccer in this country. I know I
That's
am
funny.
not I am not blowing this out of proportion. Let me tell you, in the next 8 hours, they have
Was he not the coach who took USA to the last World Cup? Wasn't it him?
yes,
When they drew 0-0 with England and
yes.
I think they lost to Netherlands eventually.
Look, here's the thing about Greg Berhalter, and I've never met the man in person. I'm sure he's a phenomenal human being in person. I'm sure. Number one, the controversy surrounding his initial appointment when he first got the job, the nepotism,
Mm.
being picked because of who his family members were within U.S. soccer. Huge hit,
At the
massive,
time of that selection, were there better candidates available?
by far, by
Okay.
far. Jesse Marsh was one of them. The other one was a Colombian coach who was coaching in the MLS who took, I can't remember his name for the life of me. I know he took FC Dallas further than they had ever been before at that point. Um, was passed over, took a job in Mexico in the Mexican League, and said I bowed out because I knew that the choice had already been made. He's
Right.
like
Wow.
the whole interview process. He was like, this choice has already been made. It's not me.
So
Um,
as you can see, there's a bit of nepotism in there.
so you have that. There's been some success. Okay, 100%. Um, and this is where I equated him to Southgate, and I said he's a lot like Southgate because the U.S. have not been successful because of tactics because of management, because of he's just some footballing genius. No, the U.S. has been successful because phenomenal players that are playing in Europe and getting coached in Europe and taking those ideas and
implementing it in
and
US.
saving his ass at the end of games and scoring goals. That is what has propelled U.S. soccer into the next level. Not this guy. Then you have the whole thing with Gio, the player power. He was fired. Greg Berhalter was fired. Then there's this whole review. It looks like we're gonna get Jesse Marsh, and then he's rehired, and no one can understand why he's rehired. It was the same thing when we rehired Bruce Arena. It was a step backwards. We knew it was a step, and this proves that it was a step backwards because you know who's still in the tournament. You know who's going to the next round? Jesse
Panama.
Marsh.
Jesse Marsh and Canada. Yes.
With Canada is going to the next round.
So he must be laughing his head off.
Oh, he's having a great time. He's having a great time.
So, who will Panama meet in the next round?
Panama will, they will meet the winner of the Colombia-Brazil game.
Ouch.
Which is tomorrow.
Okay.
And interesting one. I think on paper, this will probably be a draw. I think a lot of people will predict a draw. I'm predicting a Colombia win because I think Colombia is just outclassing people right now. But Brazil are coming off a very good game against Paraguay, so could go either way.
Yep.
If Brazil lose, Costa Rica could become the number 2 team, but they have to win by a substantial margin.
Yes.
They have to win with a lot of goals against, who's in that group? It's Colombia, Brazil,
Costa
Rica, and the other
Paraguay.
team. Paraguay, yeah. So Colombia have to beat Costa Rica have to beat Paraguay by a lot of goals, by like 3 or 4 goals. And I think Brazil would have to lose by like 1 or 2 goals, something like this. I don't see that happening. Costa Rica they're just not performing overall. They've always been in CONCACAF. Traditionally they were one of the better teams. Usually saw them in the top 3 or 4.
But
last couple of years they've fallen off really hard. And I think in this tournament is another example. I thought the draw against Brazil was insane for them. Really tight, really organized, really conservative. Didn't really try to play forward at all. And they got away with the point. But they're not going to beat. If they win, they could win, but they're not going to beat Paraguay by enough goals to make it through. No way.
Right. I mean, it's hotting up. It's now. I mean, in Europe you have round of 16, but this goes straight to quarterfinals.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's a smaller number of teams, and there's no best third in.
Right. Yeah.
None of that. Well, all right. Thank you very much, Luis. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We've updated where we are with the Copa America. We had some big games, Europa. We've seen Spain, who seem to be the hot favorites.
They played well. They played extremely well. Yamal, the young
and Nico Williams.
Did
then
well.
you have Germany. Havertz is playing very well for his country. We doesn't play like that for Arsenal and Chelsea, but maybe he's finding himself. Italy were dumped out by Switzerland. Switzerland are through.
Switzerland, you boys better watch out.
That's not going to be an easy game.
Are playing nice.
And
if Southgate tries to pull the same thing he just pulled against Slovenia or Slovakia, I don't think you guys win that game. You guys better come on the front foot.
Swiss are going to be very difficult to beat. I mean, Switzerland are a very good team, very organized, very direct, keep the ball well. Because you see, Slovenia, Slovakia, all these teams are low blockers. 4-5-1. That's what they do. You saw how hard it was for England to break them down.
Portugal
And
as well.
so it's Portugal to Portugal today. It was difficult. And I mean, I know Ronaldo wanted to score and all black, but the funny thing was, even when he was about to take that penalty, I could see he didn't look comfortable. He looked a bit tense. And the way he took the penalty is not normally where he takes those penalties.
No,
He just hit it low.
yeah, not necessarily his traditional penalty. However, and I was saying this, it was a good strike. It was low, but it was with pace. It was towards the corner. Oblak is top three goalkeepers in the world right now.
Mm.
He is insane.
Yeah.
That was a massive save. It was he predicted it. He read Ronaldo. Went
You
the
got to
correct
understand, he's faced Ronaldo so many times in La Liga.
right.
And one of the most memorable ones was the Champions League final,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
whereby that penalty Ronaldo scored was the
But
deciding penalty. So,
you saw the penalty that he did convert.
yeah,
He threw Oblak off with
yeah,
his timing because of the stutter step.
yeah,
He took it really, really well. So yeah, I think a rough day for Ronaldo just because of his own standard. And that's
yes.
why I rate him so highly. Because
N-
For Ronaldo, it's no excuses. And
no,
this is the conversation I was having in the pub about the US because they were moaning about the ref. The ref was one of the worst I've ever seen. Was horrible.
it
But at the end
was.
of the day, no excuses.
No
You got to
excuses.
go out there and you got to put goals away. And you saw
But
Ronaldo when he scored. Did you see his celebration?
yeah,
He
it was.
apologized.
He
He was like,
apologized.
he's like, that's me. He's like, I should have scored 2 goals, 3 goals already.
Yeah.
And he
And
owns it.
then you saw Pepe. But
I thought that was the game.
I thought that was it. I saw
I
my
thought that
eyes.
was the game.
Benjamin messed up big time. He
But
would have
Diego
been a hero.
Costa, from that save, gave him the confidence, I think, in the penalties because
He was
that was
on
masterclass.
those penalties. They were not poorly hit. That first one, he struck that ball well.
Yes.
I mean, the first time a goalkeeper saved 3 penalties in a penalty shootout in Euros history, that takes a lot.
What a
I
hero.
mean, our hero, Costa, great. I wouldn't mind him at United. I would not mind him at United. So
Yeah.
I say United. Portugal will now play France. France have not really played well in this tournament. They
Yeah,
have
that's
scored
why.
no goals from open play, none.
Right. And then the own goal today. Wow. Wild.
Yeah,
Absolutely wild. This
yeah.
is why again as a fan of Cristiano Ronaldo, I picked Portugal to take it all the way. And I think that this game, I think they can win it. I think it'll be tight overall. I think it'll be like France's game today against Belgium.
One
Uh,
goal will be in it, probably one.
but I think that Portugal will give them way more of a struggle than Belgium. I think Belgium has just been poor all
Belgium have been very poor. I'm very disappointed.
they've been struggling all tournament. So I think the France better watch out. And no Rabiot either. With the
Yeah,
second
yeah,
yellow.
exactly.
Right.
That's
So
a big blow.
that's a huge blow in the midfield. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm picking Portugal for that one, but I think it'll be tight.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Louis, we will catch you up again for the rundown the quarterfinals and the COPA all going on as well, side by side with the Euros. Louis, it's been an absolute pleasure. Viewers, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our channel. We are one of the biggest and best franchises in the United States. So yeah, support us and let's keep COPA going as COPA is now and is going to the quarterfinals, while the Euros is going from round of 16 into the quarterfinals. Tomorrow we have Turkey and Austria, and Romania against Netherlands in Euros. I think they'll get past Turkey,
Austria is playing nice.
but
They're playing.
Romania and Netherlands, I don't know. I don't know.
I think I'm gonna go ahead and say the Netherlands are gonna go through. But you never know. Romania top of the group. Everybody
Romania,
with 4 points, but
yeah,
you never know.
that was one of the strangest groups ever. Everybody had 4 points. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And Belgium, who was supposed to be the favorites, they struggled badly. They
So
really
bad.
struggled.
Very,
Lost
very
the
bad.
first game, drew the second game, and they drew one. Everybody drew one and lost one.
Right.
but they just didn't have enough. I mean, yeah, they have good. They don't have bad players. You had Doku, you got De Bruyne. He had a chance today.
De Bruyne by far was the best player. But one player cannot carry you through a tournament, and you saw it against France today. He had nothing left in the tank. He was empty. That's how it goes, man. You need a squad. That's why Slovenia and Slovakia did so well, because they had a team. Denmark, I thought, played extremely well. Switzerland are playing extremely well.
Denmark had chances against Germany.
If they put
two fell to Rasmus. The first one was overhead pass. By the time it got close to the ball, keeper was already in front. The second one could have done better. He just blasted his job.
Yeah. But I mean, if I'm a 21-year-old shooting against Manuel Neuer, I'm gonna be nervous too. So
on that note, it's been an absolute pleasure once again, Louis. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our channel. We shall see you again for a roundup for the COPA and bring you more Euros updates. Thank you very much, Louis. It's been an absolute pleasure, bro.
Always a pleasure, man.
Take care. Thanks a lot, bro.
Yeah, you too.